non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
What's it like just personally to have Garrett back in the building? And then when it comes to work, do you know, is he going to work in with the offense again, or how's that going to come together?
Yeah, it's great to have him back. He's ready to go, and just had a great walkthrough, and he's ready to go.
Is he back with the starting offense?
Yeah, he was with us. Yeah.
Oh, welcome into Purple Access. Zolgad, Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist, and my buddy and executive producer, Declan Goff. This is the show in which Chip and I go back to our old Access Vikings day with a twist that's now called Purple Access for Score North. Sponsored by our friends at Surly Brewing, Surly Fairies in particular, the official beer of not only Judd Zolgad, but Chip Scoggins as well. And also TCL TV. Enjoy more with TCL. If you're not watching sports on a TCL TV, what are you doing? It's the best way to watch football and your other favorite sports. All right, Chip, plenty to get to this week on the Vikings, but let's start with that soundbite from Kirk Cousins because, boy, I thought Mason Cole the last 2 weeks was pretty doggone good. He's not great, but he is an improvement on Garrett Bradbury. Garrett Bradbury's just going to step right back in and continue against the Packers on Sunday. What are we doing here if that's the case?
Yeah, I didn't see the PFF grades, but I would venture a guess that Mason Cole graded out better than Garrett Bradbury did.
Dex, he did, right?
I think he did.
We saw
he had another positive grade. And also, for what it was worth, Mason Cole was also working on a drill with the starting offensive line during practice on Wednesday as well during walkthroughs. So,
okay.
And O'Neal was missing from practice, by the way, too. So there's potentially offensive line shuffling of the deck cards basically right now on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know how you take Cole out of the lineup. I mean, he's played better. I mean, I know guys shouldn't lose their jobs for injuries, but hey, if the guy performs better than you had, then he needs to be in there. O'Neal being out, we'll see what the injury report says on that. That would be a big blow. But Judd, the right guard, has a lot of penalties this year.
Oh,
I mean, you knew Udo was going to be. You've hammered that point home since day one that you can't just assume a tackle switching a guard is going to work. But I think I saw Andrew Kramer's note in our paper that he has twice as many penalties as anyone else on the offense line. Is that correct? 11-5.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. So it's becoming an issue with him, or it is an issue, not becoming. So I would, you wonder if how much patience they're going to have with that spot, and where's Wyatt Davis at? Is he anywhere even remotely close to playing? But yeah, so now all of a sudden the line has some question marks going into, or more question marks going into Packers week.
Yeah, and Cole, again, to be clear, I don't think he's going to the Pro Bowl, and I don't think he's great.
No.
But Bradbury, and the thing is, Bradbury, it's a fine line. Bradbury, if he lost his job, won't be losing it to injury, really. Technically, he will be.
Sure.
But I mean, this is a guy who's been
not injury, but
pushed around. But or to the fact that he spent the past 2 weeks on COVID on that list. But he's been pushed around, and Cole stepped in, and I felt like he sort of solidified things. I felt like he didn't get pushed back. So but yes, you are correct. And the right guard thing, Udo, I don't blame him. I mean, they literally told him going into training camp, we're moving you to guard, make this work. And, for the second consecutive year, it's like right guard is an inconvenience, not a position. Yeah. It's like, well, what are we going to do there? And we don't trust Wyatt Davis, which I don't get again. So yeah, it's a mystery to me. Chip, it comes back to one thing. Everything, so much that's gone wrong in 2021 or been mystifying doesn't have a lot to do with the players. It's got a lot to do with the coaches and the personnel people.
And the evaluation, yeah.
Exactly.
100% it does. I mean, obviously when you have a first round pick, that player gets a longer leash than a sound run. You may not like it. You may think it's dumb. You may think it's unfair, however you want to phrase it, but it's just the fact of the way in life in the NFL. So Bradbury's going to get they're going to stick with him longer than maybe someone else just because he's a first round pick. But you're fighting for your playoff lives at this point. And if Mason Cole gives you a better chance to win and he stabilizes the offense in a way that Bradbury couldn't. Now, the one thing is we don't know, although it sounds like Cousins was complimentary of him in terms of direct and protections and all that thing. I think Bradbury generally gets high marks in that, and I don't know how much emphasis to put on that, having never played the position. But in terms of just getting pushed back and collapsing the pocket, I mean, we've seen this for 2 years or 3 years now. And so I would stick with Cole and just see if this line can continue to play, not perfect, obviously, but better than what we've seen. And because you had the form, Judd, to me, Sunday you had the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Aggressive shots, get the ball to Jefferson, throw the ball down the field, don't check it down, take some risks, Cousins. And so I think you found the formula you want to ride Sunday. And so, come back with that and see if you can, continue to do that.
I agree 1,000% with what you just said, but here's my question back at you. How convinced are you that they will continue to ride that? Because as dumb as that sounds, these are stubborn people and a stubborn head coach with this thought that what they think is best. How convinced are you that offensive formula, which I thought was great, is the one that they're going to use from here on out?
Yeah, it's funny when you listen to Zim, and we didn't hear Kubiak yet, but to hear Zim talk about it, it's almost like they presented as had an epiphany. We should get the ball to Jefferson.
That's such crap.
So I do wonder if behind the scenes, how much Jefferson let it be known that he wasn't happy, and if that sparked, because I think it's two things. I think it's Clint designing it, but more so, I think we mentioned this. Like Clint Kubiak's not designing plays for checkdowns to CJ Ham all the time.
Right.
It's just not happening.
Right.
It's the quarterback being able to cut it loose and realizing. I went back and watched Justin Jefferson's press conference from after the game Sunday, Judd. And he must have said trust half dozen times. And he was like, just trust us to make a play. Trust us that, if you throw the ball, we're going to come down with it. We're going to do something special with it. So it felt like his way of insinuating, just throws us the ball. We'll make a play. And Cousins finally cut it loose and realized even if these guys are covered, you have a really high percentage chance of completing it or drawing a pass interference because Justin Jefferson is a special player. And so maybe it was a eureka moment where they don't go backwards and they say, hey, this works and I got to do it more. I just got to get out of my comfort. So I hope that's the case.
Yeah. And Chipper, we covered football long enough and this team, and not these guys, but this team to know that one, I can with complete confidence, having not heard a thing, say that something finally gave. Like there was a blow up of some sort. Like this was not Mike. Mike, as much as Mike gets up to the podium and tells basically what amount to me as bedtime stories, fairy tales. I called Justin in and told him, no, you didn't, dude, but that's fine. But the thing that I have heard that makes a ton of sense behind the scenes was the quarterback's coach. I believe it's Andrew Janocko.
Janocko, yeah.
Janocko got a bigger role on game day in helping Clint call plays. Because the thing with Kirk is this. So Kirk is not going to take chances unless Kirk is told to, but Kirk can make throws. Now, do I think that Kirk can think on his feet by himself? No, I don't. So I think what happened was the play calling, and it definitely changed. Like there's no question.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
That whoever was helping call plays convinced Kubiak and probably Mike that what we have to do is trust Kirk and make sure Kirk knows that he's not going to be in trouble. And to what you're saying then is, and this is the unfortunate thing. So I think Jefferson is like the kid in a divorce. Like he's not at fault here, but he's the one that it gets taken out on. And somebody finally said, look, Justin Jefferson is so good that if you throw him the ball, what you said, Chip, is going to happen. He's going to, for the most part, go up and get it or draw a call. But you got to trust him.
You got to be willing to do it. Yes. Well, how much? I think you hit on a point there. That's I don't know if we can prove it, but how much do you think either Mike and or Cousins had to be convinced that guess what, you might throw an interception, or as Childress used to say, it might be a long foul ball, but you have to throw them because the likelihood that Jefferson's going to make a play, because he's a special talent, Judd. I mean, I'm doing a call tomorrow. I went back and looked at targets. Because this whole thing has kind of got me thinking about the Mike Tyson to Randy ratio, and nobody's throwing 40% of passes. Nobody's doing it that much, but I was just curious, like top 5 guys last 5 years in targets, like what's the percentage? And generally, it's 28 to 32% of the passes for a team thrown to one guy. Jefferson's at 23 last year, 24% this year. So it can get, if you add another 5%, another 6% of those passes go in his direction, that could be the difference in a win and loss, Judd. I mean, absolutely. So that goes to him instead of CJ Ham, or I think Conklin's a good receiver, but a check down to Conklin versus taking a shot down there. And I don't want to hear about umbrella coverages. I mean, I agree. Yeah. All these guys that are top targeted guys, you think they're not drawing attention? You think DeAndre Hopkins is not drawing attention? I mean, you find ways to get him open, and you trust that the guy's going to go make a play. And it felt like, was that game 10 Sunday? It felt like game 10. Week 10. Yeah, it felt like finally game 9 after, basically ignoring him the last couple of weeks, that they realized we have to do this. It's not, do you think Zimmer, they said, we don't care if you make a mistake. We don't care if you throw in, not care, but if you throw an interception, that's that's okay. You're not going to be screamed at by Zimmer.
Yeah, well, and I also think that Mike was talked to. Like Mike tries to make us believe that Mike makes up the rules. That one struck me as, hey, Mike, you take care of defense, which, by the way, you did a good job. You did a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Get out of the offensive stew. You're gumming it up. And I think that Kirk is risk adverse. But my conclusion now is in year 4 Kirk, or 3?
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, 24. Yeah, in year 4 Kirk is robotic. But he's a robot with talent. And so I've always said that off the field, as far as his approach, he is the corporate quarterback. He sort of is on the field too, which is, if Kirk is afraid Kirk is going to make a mistake, Kirk is going to check the ball down. But if somebody says, Kirk, here's what we want you to do: force the ball into Jefferson. And by the way, this does not give him carte blanche to force the ball into everybody all the time, because as good as Thielen is, he's not Jefferson. And so I think, personally, my opinion, Mike was eliminated from this. Like Mike, they're like, Mike, go away. And that they told Kirk, here's what we're going to do. And Clint, who was a disaster as a play caller, was at least given help, and it worked out. But I mean, the problem is, Chip, as much as we're like, that was fun to watch and that was the right approach and blah, 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 it was the simplest, like, first step for the talent of this offense that you can possibly get. Like, think about if Sean McVay, if you brought in Sean McVay and showed him the Chargers game and like, hey, Sean, watch this. He'd be like, well, yeah, okay. And let's do 18 things besides that. So I think it was the right first step, but it doesn't cure the dysfunction that I think goes on behind the scenes that led this thing to be basically screwy for 8 games.
How much do you think of it was, just desperation, considering the circumstances too? Because if you lose that game playing it safe,
well,
now this thing can really fall apart on you quick.
I think it was the desperation of people who melted down. Like, my guess is Jefferson privately probably said something, if not a lot. Thielen, I think. I mean, Thielen, in his press conferences after the loss to Dallas, was as frontal as he is ever going to be. Well, like, that's basically him saying these people are morons. And he's right. He's not wrong. I agree with him.
And for Zimmer to say, well, I knew Jefferson was very frustrated last week, so something either. And then Thielen, I wish I had the exact quote here today. I can read it. Ben Gessling, for my colleague, had it today. Let me call it up here. But he was asked about the aggressive nature that they showed last week. And here's Thielen's quote. He said, "Yeah, I think it was a good showing of what the formula kind of has to be to win games. It's a little bit different league nowadays. You have to be able to be aggressive because there's just so much firepower." So,
yeah,
it's these receivers are doing everything they can to beg and plead for that mindset. And maybe, Zimmer listened, or maybe, like you said, somebody got to him and said, "Hey, you got a boiling stew here that's about to bubble over if you don't loosen the reins." But I go back to, you can have that plan and you can okay it and authorize it, but the quarterback has to be willing to cut it loose. And for whatever reason, he did this time. He stood in there. He made some big time throws, and I don't know how many of the ones. I mean, obviously the big one Jefferson had along the sideline. That was, that's a tough catch.
Oh God, yeah.
So if these guys are covered, I mean, you hear it. If they're covered, that doesn't mean you can't throw them the ball. Now I don't say be reckless and just be, but I think you just have to realize that guy particularly is a special player, and he's going to win his matchups. He just is. Not 100% time, but he's going to win more than he loses. And the way the NFL is nowadays, with defensive backs not even being able to touch him really, he's going to get pass interference penalties. He's going to draw them just because.
He did?
Yeah.
He did on what was really a bad throw. But you know what?
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
It was a great throw.
The throw was out of bounds. It didn't matter. And that's the key thing. And it was also, if you go back and watch the Cousins and Zim post-game pressers on Sunday, Chipper, it's interesting because it was sort of like you had to take the Zimmer, Cousins, and Jefferson pressers and piece them together to get the truth. But Zimmer essentially said what you're saying, which is there were times where they were double covered, and we threw to him. Kirk tried to say, well, if he was double covered, I didn't throw to him, which is not true. Yeah. He actually did. Now, what people don't account for is, or what fans don't see, and like you sort of, if you go back and watch it, you do start to pick up on, Chipper, is the fact that double coverage is not plaster coverage. So like we want to think, oh my God, he's double covered, two defensive backs.
Like two guys are running with him. Yeah.
Like it's literally this and
like a sandwich.
Jefferson's like in between him. He weighs like 12 pounds. That's not how it works. So there was a catch that Jefferson made. I think it was one on the sidelines. It wasn't the great catch in the fourth quarter where he toe tapped late, but it was another one, and the safety's rolling to him. And what does Kirk do? And this is what Kirk doesn't do unless you tell Kirk to do it. Again, I think this all comes back to, you got to tell Kirk, go, you have to make this throw. Like, you'll be in trouble if you don't make the throw. The safety's rolling, but he's just a tick late, because often the safety's a tick late, and the throw is a good throw, and Jefferson makes an unbelievable catch, well covered, and the double coverage gets there, but it's just a tad too late. That's what you can do. So like when we hear these fallacy stories about, well, the Detroit Lions, they had too deep. It was. I mean, do you think that it's not like the safety comes up to the line of scrimmage with the corner and they like literally bear hug Justin Jefferson? So like this is the whole thing about, like, we fall in love with these phrases without really understanding what the phrase means.
Well, and furthermore, do you not think Devontae Adams draws a lot of attention? Or,
of course, yes. All the guys you're researching, Chip.
Yeah.
For your column tomorrow, draw a ton of attention.
Exactly. But they either scheme them open or when, or they throw it to them when they're getting a lot of attention. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be wide open. Nobody around them. They're waving their arms. Hey, look at this. I'm wide open. It's just not going to happen. And so it's just, and I'll give Cousins credit that he broke free of his conservative, I want to check it down, or I'm not sure, or risk-averse nature, and gave his guys an opportunity to make a play, and they did.
Do you think that's because
they won because of it? They won because of it.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think that's because he did not have to think? That's my contention. I think they told him, you don't have to think. We're going to tell you what to do. He made a play. So
I don't know.
There's a play he made that I saw on Twitter on film. That is the difference between the Cousins against the Chargers and Kirk 2 weeks back. There's a play where the pocket is collapsing, but it's a normal pocket collapsing. It's not a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook has leaked out as the check down to his immediate right. And Kirk steps up in the pocket, takes one step up, doesn't look at Cook. So he doesn't throw there, which 2 weeks ago he does. Guns the ball to the middle. Jefferson, who is double covered, makes the catch, and then bull, and because he's strong, he bowls himself ahead for a first down and celebrates. That's the type of throw where I think they basically are now telling Kirk, you've got to, this is the play. You've got to make that play, because there is no question in my mind 2 weeks ago, that's a throw to Dalvin, and he probably gets 6 yards,
3 yards, 4 yards. Yeah.
But I'm saying
you're punting. Yeah.
But I don't give, but I'm saying, I think it's some type of difference between the play calling, the empowerment, because Kirk doesn't change his stripes. He doesn't change. He's always the same. That arm is good. Like, I'm giving him credit athletically. That arm is a hell of an arm.
Yeah. I don't know what unlocked it, whether it was him saying bleep it, or him or them going saying, hey, don't worry about making mistakes, get outside of your comfort zone. But if you're playing it safe, this offense is not going to go anywhere near what it should be. Was it just, hey, the season's slipping away, so now I can just cut it loose and play? There's no pressure because now you got to just cut it loose because you're desperate. I don't know what it was. I mean, he's not going to admit it, because you saw his post game. He's like, yeah, if the guy was doubled, I didn't throw it. I mean, he's not going to tell you the truth.
And when Mike takes credit offensively, it probably means it's not true. So like anything that Mike says that he said offensively, I don't buy. It came from somewhere. It's just not Mike. And the whole Kirk thing about, I mean, first of all, you threw into double coverage with Justin, which is awesome. Don't say I didn't do that. You did, and that's great. And the thing with Kirk is, I think you might have hit on something that you talked about, Chip, for your column for tomorrow, because I said this last week and it seemed like it was in place. The Randy ratio, while it's probably a slight bit high at the time, what was internally a great idea. And I said, coming out of the game before the Chargers game, they internally, and this would not be like unprecedented, they need a Justin ratio that they don't reveal.
Yeah.
So don't talk about it. It felt like there was a Justin ratio.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we've been talking so much about, you got to get him targets, you got to throw it. And it reminded me of the Randy ratio. And I was like, no one ever really puts a number on it, but I was curious to see, like, was anybody close to 40% like right now?
Right.
And they're not. I mean, the top guys are catching around 30 to 32%, or getting targeted around 30 to 32% of the time. So it's not 40, but I mean, the best guys, the leader around 33% of the passes going their way. So I just think with Jefferson, he's at 24%. If you could get him up in that 28 to 30% range, which is what, 2 more targets, 3 more targets a game, could be a big play in there, or a big pass interference penalty. That's a 30-yard pass, it changes the game. So it's like, it's amazing how 1 or 2 or 3 more targets could really change the game. And so I need alliteration. What's the alliteration with Jeff? We have Randy ratio. I need alliteration with Jay. It's hard to think about. Yeah. It doesn't come to me. I've been thinking about it, but we don't have one.
Jay's not as easy as the R.
No, it's easy.
R is great.
Oh,
R is a great one. Jefferson or Justin.
And Tyson was, I think that was Tyson's way to ingratiate himself with Randy and just say, hey, you're important, because you need to have him on his side.
I got to start like this just hit me, and I'm not saying it's the perfect one, but it strikes me as being true. Justifying Justin. The justifying Justin, because it's justifying his presence. Because if they don't, he's going to be a hell of a receiver for the Buffalo Bills in a few years.
I might have to steal that and put it in my column.
Justifying Justin.
Is that plagiarism?
No, I gave it. No, it's yours. Take it. No.
Yeah.
One, it's not written down. 2, I am
Yeah.
giving you the intellectual property of justifying Justin.
Right.
Run with it. So let's talk about the Packers game on Sunday.
Yeah, Packers week, man.
It
feels different.
But before we do, let's talk about the way that you're going to enjoy post game. Okay, when Chip Scoggins is done, Packers, Vikings. I'm guessing you get home to the Scoggins estate around 5:00, 5:30 or 6. Are you going to enjoy yourself like I am when I get home? Not just a Surly, but a Surly Furious IPA. Tell me about what's in your fridge, Chip Scoggins.
I went yesterday. I was low. I had
not good.
It was a scary situation. I came back from Iowa, covering the Gophers, opened the fridge, I had one Furious left. Well, that's not enough. Come on.
No.
That was a no-go. So I had to make a beeline for my my liquor store, and I'm stocked up now, baby. I got enough Furious for the rest of the week.
Now you're not going to the Gopher Indiana game, are you?
I will be there.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yes, I will be.
You
there.
really have to. Oh my God. Oh, I'm so sorry. You have to go to that game.
And I don't think they have Furious in Indianapolis.
No. Just a really bad football team. All right, Packers on Sunday. Your expectation for a game that could get the Vikings back to 5-5, but I feel like we're almost getting too cocky as well. So
yeah, I do. I mean, I really was impressed the way Zimmer's defense played, considering all the guys they had out. You're getting Harrison Smith back. You're getting Pat Peterson back. Obviously, those are, big upgrades. And we'll see. I assume Peterson's healthy and 100% or close to, but can they do that again, Judd? Can they duplicate the effort they had against Justin Herbert in that offense and find a way to contain Aaron Rodgers and slow Devontae Adams down? I don't know. I mean, I just, without seeing the consistency, which that's been the big issue with that defense.
Yep.
I just don't know. And I do like, I like the template that we talked about on offense. And if they can duplicate that and Zim can come up with some kind of creative game plan to, prevent Rodgers from just going absolutely crazy on him and Devontae Adams. Should be a good game. I don't know if I'd pick him to win. I just need to see more consistency than just one game.
Oh, agree completely. I feel like if Pat Pete comes back and is 100%, which is sort of probably a long shot because he's 31. It's a hamstring. But I feel like if Dantzler and Peterson start, that's not a bad start for a fighting chance. If Breland has to play, the one thing that surprised me was that Brandon Staley didn't find more ways to get Justin Herbert to attack Breland deep. Like they attacked him, but it was a lot of shorter stuff, I thought. And I thought that there for sure would be 2 or 3 real down the field shots. It felt like there was maybe one. So Rodgers is not going to miss that one if Breland is playing.
Yeah.
And Breland, if he would quit fighting with fans on Twitter and concentrate on his craft, would probably be improved. But that would be rough. So if Peterson doesn't play or tries to play and can't play, that's a big blow. But I mean, Pat P was playing, I thought, really well. Like he was an upgrade there. So,
well, it'll be interesting too. I was at Zimmer's press conference today, and he was asked about buying him. Is he going to have some kind of package? Obviously, with Harrison Smith coming back, and Zimmer said, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know, but
big nickel, go big.
Nickel. I mean, I liked what that young guy showed in his 2 games. I mean, he looks like a player. Now you got to see it more in 2 games, but he looks like a playmaker, back there. And so I just, I still wonder about their defense and can they do it consistently against good, really good quarterbacks. And obviously it was very impressive. I mean, they were what Eric Kendricks did to kind of set the tone with the sack and an interception. If he can have a big game like that, because he basically ruined 2 possessions by himself. The sack, which was like a 15-yard sack and then the interception. If he can ruin like 2 or 3 possessions, they'll have a chance.
How good do you think the Packers are? I've been trying to decide that when they definitely now defensively have guys banged up. They're a good. I mean, the defense is really sound, but I can't figure out and the league is so weird. I can't figure out how good I truly think the Packers are.
Well, that I was going to say that, just like in relation to the league, they're pretty good. I mean, I just don't know that there's that many great teams. when you look at the NFC and just
There's not.
there's not. And so I think,
not.
yeah, they're better than, they are what their record says they are. And, as long as Aaron Rodgers is there, I'm going to say they're pretty good because he's just dynamite.
Last question. In your time covering sports in this town, have you ever seen a time when the offensive approach, play calling has been as poor as often, because the Chargers game was good, but has been as poor as often this deep into a season as the Division I football Gophers are and the Vikings are?
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways they're identical, just the conservative nature of them and the risk aversion and just playing it safe and leaving the door open for teams by, not putting your foot on the gas and settling for field goals and settling for the safe route in critical situations have just let teams have given them new life. Where like, hey, let's score a touchdown there. We held them to a field goal. And, I go back to the game I covered Saturday, Gophers at Iowa. I don't know any circumstance in the first drive or second drive, first quarter, where you kick a field goal from the 2-yard line. In the
first drive, I think.
First drive, you're kicking a field goal. You're kicking a field goal from the 2-yard line on the first drive. Now, if it's 16-13 midway through the fourth, you kick the field goal. But on the first drive of the game, I don't understand it. And, the 2-minute stuff where we see both Zim and Fleck just content with the field goal instead of really trying to push it in and get 7 versus 3. So it's in a lot of ways, I feel like when I cover, I had the weekend off last weekend, was it when I went down to Kansas or 2 weekends ago, and I had to come home Sunday and watch the Gophers and Vikings games back to back. I taped them to prepare for the week, and it's like, holy cow, it was I felt like I was watching the same team.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and I can't decide this. So I think Fleck is a really bad in-game coach. I think he's a good recruiter. I think that his heart for the kids is probably in the right place, but when the game starts, he's not good. And Zimmer is not that great. And I can't decide this. Are they both crappy in-game coaches, or has in-game coaching just come so damn far that if you're not good, it's just so blatantly obvious now?
Well, PJ always talks about he was mentor his mentor is Jim Tressel, and he Tresselball, and he's a disciple of Tresselball. Play it close, run the ball, blah blah blah. And Zimmer, we know, is old school the way he did it. So I think it's just the way they were brought up in their profession and who they were assistant coaches under, and the philosophy that they had. They just haven't been able to shed that. And the game has changed so much. I mean, I look at the NFL, yes, but college football to a larger degree, you can't kick field goals. I mean, college football field goals are just not going to. Yeah. I mean, you're going to get beat kicking field goals, and NFL's that way too with the scoring. But they've stuck to that philosophy, like just get points in your defensive hold and time of possession, and they both value time of possession and running the ball. And not saying that that's absolute that you can't win that way, but I don't know if you're going to win big that way.
Yeah, and I feel like this game now in both Division I and the National Football League also is about making a statement, especially early. And if you kick a field goal on the road against a team like the Hawkeyes, when you are running the ball down their throat, that's a sign of surrender, and it emboldens the team that gave up the 3 points instead of being like, whoa, we just took a shot to the chin. They're like, yeah, we took a shot and we stood up to it. So it's just I think you're right. The game has just changed so much.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I've got it. I've got your Justin Jefferson ratio. I tweaked it. The Justin justification.
Justin justification.
It's more active.
I love it. I love it.
The Justin justification.
I love it. I want to use it.
That's your new title, and it's all yours.
Thank you.
Join me every week. I appreciate that. It's yours to use.
Thank you very much.
All right, Chip Scoggins, we will talk to you next week. Probably if we try and do it, let's try and probably early. Tuesday, because I don't think on Thursday either one of us is going to feel like downing a bunch of turkey and doing.
I'll be asleep on here. Yeah.
Enjoy your week. Enjoy the Gophers. Enjoy the Vikings. And most importantly, enjoy those Surly Furiouses in your fridge. Bye.